Hey everybody, welcome. So excited to be joining you guys for Explore Spanish Reds tonight. The chat is already on point, so thank you guys. It is amazing to see people coming from all over, not coming, but joining us from all over. And it's wonderful to see old customers who've moved away from Madison joining us. So thank you. It's so fabulous. It's so fabulous to see all of your names. If you haven't joined us for a class here on Crowdcast before, thanks for joining us tonight. The way that it works is pretty much as you'd expect. The biggest things to note are you can leave chat comments and questions in the sidebar. And I really do encourage you to kind of, ask as many questions as you want. And as we're tasting the wines, if you are able to drink along with us, I would love to hear what you're tasting, what you're picking up on, how you feel about the wine. I will definitely pause and encourage that. But if you've not joined me for classes at Table Wine before in person, I like to keep things approachable and casual while also giving you a lot of good information. So don't feel like you can't ask the question, I guess is the point of all of that. If you have a moment to fill out the poll, that would be awesome. It's a little, it's a little self-selecting. I'm trying to figure out what times of day work best for folks for classes, and I realize that you guys are all joining me right now at 6 o'clock on a weeknight, so most likely you're probably going to answer that this time works for you, but I am just curious to see kind of what works for people. So if you could answer that, that would be fantastic. I think that's all the housekeeping stuff. What works best for me. I mean, this time of day is pretty great. Thank you. I appreciate that. This time of day is pretty great. It's, I'm able to still have dinner with my family and still able to get all of you guys wine during the day at the store. So this is kind of my ideal situation, but that's okay. I can be flexible or, can offer different options for different people. So I think that's the only housekeeping stuff. Without further ado, let's dig into Spanish wines. I'm going to kind of jump back and forth a bit between screen sharing. I try not to, go too heavy on the PowerPoint kind of stuff. But I do think that there's some good information to share. So let's dig in, shall we? I'm gonna switch this up. There we go. Okay, so some fundamental information. I know that some of you were with me last week for Spanish white wines, so this information will probably look familiar. But I would want to go over it in case you weren't with us or just as a refresher, that Spanish wines are categorized by where they come from within Spain. And there are 5 tiers of those categories. I always say that if this information feels like the barrier that keeps you from being interested in wine, just let the information wash over you. If this is the kind of information that you're like, oh my God, I want to learn and learn and learn, there's so much that you can read about this kind of stuff. So, and maybe you're like me and you're kind of somewhere in the middle of those two places. I'm going to give you like the middle of the road, just enough information so that you can kind of have your bearings a bit, but not so much that you feel like you have to study. So, the tiers are listed there. They basically are saying that wines that are from specific places should be designated as coming from those places, that they believe that those specific sites are different and unique enough to warrant kind of their own designation. So the 14 VP level, I haven't had a chance to taste any of those wines. And then wines from DOCAs, there are only 2 in that in all of Spain that qualify as that. And we're going to taste one tonight if you're drinking along with us, or we're going to at least talk about it. So we're going to taste wine from Rioja. And then most of the wines that we kind of come across here in the US will fall into that DO category. And then there are wines that are more general categorizations below that. In Spain, it's warm Certain parts are have a lot of rainfall. Most of the country does not have a lot of rainfall, but it is warm and things do grow pretty easily there. So when you look at Spain as a whole, there are about 400 different varietals that grow in Spain. But the huge bulk of their wine, about 80% of the wines that are produced in Spain come from just 20 varietals. So as you're kind of starting to learn Spanish wine and get to know it, you can really hang out and learn those 20 varietals, and you'll know so much about Spanish wine. So within those 20 varietals, the three key red varietals are Garnacha, Monastrell, and Tempranillo. Those are listed in order of how much is grown in the country. So those are conveniently the three that we're going to taste tonight. And it's funny, I kind of had, I had this information, but that wasn't why I picked the three I picked. I thought, oh, these are good representations of a bunch of different styles. And then lo and behold, I was really that good. So Spanish wine labels, just to go over it, in case it's something that kind of befuddles you a bit. Spanish wine labels, I will make that big again if that's of interest to anybody. So Spanish wine labels will have, the information that wine labels typically have, things like the vintage, the name of the winery, which is real small, the name, like that kind of information. Then they're not necessarily going to put the varietal on here. They can. They have the ability to, but they don't have to. So in the case, if you're drinking the three wines that we have tonight, in this case, it does not say on the front what the grape is. I don't think it actually says it anywhere on here. Lo and behold, it's Garnacha, y'all. If you're drinking the Monastrell, sorry, the glare is a little bad. The Monastrell does say it there. There we go. So it will sometimes say varietal, but not always, but it is always going to say place. The other thing that's worth mentioning, and we'll talk a little bit more about this when we get to Rioja, the thing that you'll see, and this is possible for white wines, but it's more common with red wines, that there are some aging distinctions. Certain regions have different aging categorizations. They don't all have them. Some regions choose to have aging categories. Rioja is kind of the biggest example of it. So Crianza is referencing specific age requirements that the wine has to follow to be able to be called a Crianza. So again, if that's like too much, just let it wash over you. Or if it's not, we'll revisit it when it comes time to drink the Rioja. So that's kind of like your base level fundamental information. Does anybody have questions about that basic stuff? I'm gonna sip water. One of the biggest things that I have noticed between virtual classes and in-person classes, I love this format a lot. But if you've taken classes with me in person, I let you guys drink and I then go drink water and have a moment. And so it's kind of funny that now I have to drink my water on screen. Sorry, y'all. To answer your question, Erin, yeah, the Monastrell does not have an aging designation. Nope, and neither does the Garnacha. And that's going to be most common, is not to have the aging requirement. So let me bring that screen. Let me make that slide just a bit bigger. They have it there if it's coming from those places, but it doesn't have to. What is the difference between aging designation and vintage? Awesome. Super great question, Jen. So vintage is referring to the year that the grapes were harvested. So in the case of the wines that we have tonight, we have 2 wines from 2017 and 1 wine from 2014. I know a few of you might have a different Monastrell than I have. You guys were just so wonderful at ordering. So a couple people have different wines. I'm not sure on the vintage of the La Tremenda, if that's what you're drinking at home, but I think it is also 2017. So 2017, the vintage is referring to when the grapes were picked. Aging designation, the thing like Crianza, I'll make myself big again. Crianza here on our Rioja, or Reserva or Gran Reserva, those are saying that a wine has to be aged a certain amount of time. So the vintage here is 2014. And then Crianza is telling us that it had to be aged in oak barrels for a certain amount of time and bottles and bottle aged for a certain amount of time. But like in my cellar, I have wines that are also Crianza, but from a different vintage. So you can come across, we have a Crianza at the store right now. I think the vintage is 2010. So that's telling you the grapes were picked in 2010. It followed the same aging requirements as the Piscina that we're going to taste tonight. So they're two kind of different things. If that doesn't quite sink in, let me know. Is the big C on the Castagno telling us something in particular? No, I think it's just design. That's just marketing. That's just to get you to pick up the wine. Nope. That's just the label. Cool. If you have other questions, please keep them coming. I'm all ears. Yeah, the family's Castagno, so it's just that's just that. All right. I'm just going to show you guys a quick map here for a second, if I can. There we go. So when we were doing Spanish whites, we hung out in these two regions. And tonight we're going to hang out in these three regions. So reds are grown in all of the different regions in Spain. But the three that we're going to focus on are the Mediterranean coast, the Meseta, which is the kind of the big plateau in the middle of the country, and then the Ebro River Valley. So that's kind of our geographical goal for the evening. All right. I think that's enough fundamental stuff for now. All right, guys, we're going to jump in and drink some wine. What's that sound? All right, so we are going to start in the Mediterranean coast. Sorry, I'm doing weird things to myself. So feel free to pour yourself some Monastrell. This area has one of the DOCA. So I mentioned that there are two in the whole country of Spain. One of them is Rioja, which we're going to drink, and one of them is Priorat. Other times that I have taught this class, I have included a Priorat. They are fantastic, and if you tend to drink a lot of domestic wine, Priorats are often a good place to kind of start. For some people, they are a little higher in alcohol. They tend to have kind of like rich, concentrated dark fruit. Some Priorats have really strong minerality, and so that can be a little bit of a dividing line for us any New World drinkers. But the only reason that I didn't include Priorat tonight, two reasons. One, I wanted to try to keep the three wines that I'm picking for these classes so that all three are generally affordable for folks. And Priorats just aren't that inexpensive. They tend to start in the mid-20s. So if it's of interest to you, we have at least one on the shelf right now, but it's just not something that I thought budget-wise, it didn't make as much sense. And the Mediterranean coast is a really great place for bargains. So this is my time to talk about, inexpensive and how good those wines are. So there's Priorat. It's amazing, and you're welcome to, kind of explore it. The other kind of sub-regions for red are Montsant. Priorat is this really steep mountain, and then the surrounding foothills kind of form this bowl, and that is Montsant. So you can often find kind of cool, I'd say bargains. I hate that word, but I don't know. More pocketbook friendly options from Montsant. If any of you have had Joanna at the store, it's a really beautiful floral label. It was a wine club wine a while back. That is from Montsant. Humia and Yekla were the other kind of notable subregions. I have listed there on the slide kind of the notable red varietals. Garnacha is a big one. Garnacha kind of shows up in all places. A really fun grape called Bobal. We have a Bobal at the store. It's, to my knowledge, really only grown in this part of Spain, really close to the Mediterranean. And if you like tannins, Bobal would be a really cool thing to explore. And then some varietals that are grown in France and here in the US and kind of a little bit more around the world. Syrah, Monastrell, which is what we're going to taste, and Carignan. Monastrell, I taught a class actually not too long ago. It was one of the last in-person classes I was able to teach. A class about Monastrell. Monastrell is a grape also known as Mourvedre. Most of the world calls it Mourvedre. Spain calls it Monastrell, and certain parts of Spain actually call it other things. So if you haven't had Monastrell before, tonight's your night. Yay, welcome. So feel free to taste. If you do have something other than the Castaño, by all means, let me know in the chat. I'll be, if I know it, I'll try to comment on the differences between what you're drinking and what we're drinking. If you were shopping at Table Wine and you got the La Tremenda instead of Castaño, they're very similar. Flavor profile wise, I specifically subbed in the La Tremenda because it is really similar to the Castaño. So what you can kind of expect from Monastrell is this like nice medium bodied wine. Sometimes more red fruit, sometimes more black fruit. It can be big in tannin, but this particular version is not. Oh, right? Yeah, Elsie, for sure, right? Like making a stew with this wine. I could not agree more. We're having a minestrone for dinner after class, and I'm pretty excited to try this with that. Is tiering a quality measurement, Ellen? Sorta, which I know is like kind of a cop-out answer. The place designations do matter a lot. And then there's this like gray area of sometimes people choosing not to go with the place designation like a DO or a DOCA because they don't want to play by the rules. You see that less in Spain than you do in Italy and France. I think one of the main reasons is that Spanish bureaucracy isn't quite as restrictive as some other European countries. So winemakers have a little more free reign in terms of what grapes they can grow and still put the DO on it. Whereas in Italy or France, to say put Burgundy on your label, Bourgogne on your label, it has to be Pinot Noir. It can be like a tiny little bit of other grapes, but it has to be primarily Pinot Noir. So that's why I kind of give that like iffy answer about the tiering thing being a quality measurement. I think across the board, you can kind of say like, yeah, it is, right? But there's a lot of crap Rioja. There's a lot of like cheap, bad, not interesting Rioja, but it gets to say it's a DOCA. And then, something like what we're drinking for the Monastrell is just a DO, or, the Garnacha that we're going to have is just a DO, and it's this amazing organic winery. So I kind of tend to hesitate to just say like blanket answer. I hope that helps. So back to the Monastrell. How are you guys feeling about it? What do you think? It has a really lovely aroma, I think. The comment about making a mild red curry, yeah, I do think so. But because we're next door to Monsoon Siam, we have gotten questions since the day we opened our doors about what pairs well with Thai food. And so we've done a lot of research about what red wines, because people often want red wine with Thai food. And the tannins aren't always perfect with Thai food. So yeah, it's going well with pulled pork. That totally makes sense to me, right? And it has that like little bit of spice to it. Oh, Oh, I'm so glad that you like the La Tremenda. I love that wine. You know, it was honestly, it was like a coin toss between Castagno or La Tremenda. I think they're both. Oh, it's the perfect red wine. That's so awesome. I love that. When I did do Monastrell class, it was so great because so many people took that class. And please, in the chat, let me know if you were in that class. So many people were like, I'm not familiar with this grape at all. Turns out like I have a new favorite, like a new favorite grape. It really hits on so many things. And if you're not drinking along with us, what can I tell you about Monastrell? I've kind of given you like the flavor profile. It's affordable. And that's one of the reasons that I really wanted to include it. It's a whole lot of wine for $11. You know, you have tannin and you have some acidity and you have some spice, and it does have a lot going on. I love the food pairings. I love to see this. Wine and Thai food dinner at table wine. I know someday we'll get back to that. I'm so glad you guys like the wine. There's something really enjoyable about the amount of tannin, at least for me personally. It's not non-existent, but it's not overwhelming. And I do think, I don't know, it's just kind of satisfying. I wanted to mention about the Mediterranean coast. I did mention that the country is, you know, Spain is really warm, and we'll talk about that more in just a second when we get to the next region. And but by the Mediterranean, because they have the breeze, it is a little bit cooler, and grapes do grow super well there. Okay, seeing all the notes, that's so awesome. I'm so glad you have 2013 and it's still tasting good. That's so killer, man. Like that, this is an $11 bottle of wine, and the fact that it ages well, that's great. Oh, I'm so glad to see people enjoying it. Okay, so the tannin question comes up. It rears its head once again. I'm loving the chat there about couples not realizing what they're spending. We respect budgets at Table Wine. We know, we understand. We don't spend too much of your money, guys, I promise. Tannins are the thing that make your tongue dry out. It is an actual physical thing. It's not like an idea. It's real. It's actually happening in your mouth. If after tonight's class, it's still a little challenging, here's what I can say. Get some black tea, leave the tea bag in the hot water for, you know, like a really, really long time. And then take a sip, and it'll be that kind of astringent feeling. It can be on your cheeks. It can be on your tongue, it can feel like the roof of your mouth. Tannins do physically dry out your mouth, and they open your flavor receptacles on your tongue. Tannins occur naturally in all grapes. They are mostly in the skins, the seeds, and the stems. So by dint of the way that red wine is made, we talk about them more with red wine. They exist in green grapes too, grapes that white wines are made from. But white wine, you press the grapes and you separate the juice from all the skins and seeds and stuff right away. And so it doesn't tend to come up with white wine. It's not a conversation point. You don't notice it. It's not like a component of white wine, where it is with red wine, because you press the juice for red wine, and then you let the wine sit with the skins and sometimes seeds and stems as well, but definitely the skins. What about tannins? Sorry, I get always distracted when people ask me the tannin question. If that's still confusing, you know, like give me a shout out in the chat, and I'll try to, you know, keep on going down that path. The one other thing of note about tannins is that while they are an objective thing, our perception of them is subjective. So if you drink nothing but Moscato, all red wines are going to be like, blah, this is so dry. My mouth is super, super dry. If you only drink like super big, bold red wines, you're going to drink something like a Pinot Noir and be like, meh, it doesn't taste like anything. It's thin is what I hear a lot of times from people. So it's an objective and subjective thing. So I hope that helps. Often when people out in the world are talking about they want a dry red wine, that's usually a clue to us in the wine profession that what you're talking about are tannins, because to us, dry is like the opposite of sweet. So head shakers. Eventually she came to like them. I love that. And sometimes people think that they get tannin headaches. There are the select group of people who are allergic to tannins, but if you're allergic to tannins, you can't eat all sorts of things. You wouldn't be able to have coffee or tea or walnuts, and you'd know it. So if you get a headache from red wine, it's probably something else giving you the headache, like too much wine. Okay, so I'm reading all the chats and they're just fabulous. I love it. So any comments, questions about the Monastrell before we leave it? I think we talked through everything, maybe not food pairing so much. We talked about the red curry and the stew and chili and all those things. I know that we're kind of moving out of that season. So I am, I mean, we're never out of Thai food season. Let's just be clear about that. But we're moving out of kind of like stew and chili season, but maybe this weekend, guys, because you're going to have some open. Oh, the Altos de la Hoya. Yeah, for sure, Dennis. What you're drinking definitely has more tannins than what we're drinking. The Altos de la Hoya from Olivares is a lovely Monastrell, but it is definitely like heartier. And it does have a little bit more acidic. I would say that the main difference between the Altos de la Hoya and what we all have, the Castaño or the La Tremenda, is that Altos de la Hoya leans a bit more black fruit, and what we're all drinking leans a little more red fruit. So that's kind of like the biggest difference between, besides the tannins. It is going to be freezing at night for the next like stupid week. Hope you guys in Texas and Mississippi have better weather than we're having. It's beautiful right now. It's absolutely gorgeous, but it's going to stop being gorgeous. Okay, I remembered my dump bucket. I'm really excited that I'm not going to get too tipsy. All right, are we good moving on? 30s at night in Mississippi. Oh my gosh, you guys don't know what to do. At least up here we know what to do. We can handle it. All right, we are gonna keep on keeping on. All right, so we're gonna go now to the Meseta, which is that big kind of central region in the middle of the country. There are no DOCAs in the Meseta. The kind of the biggest subregions for wine are Vinos de Madrid, which is what we're going to drink, and then Castilla-La Mancha. With Castilla-La Mancha, I do the English nerd in me gets so excited because they have Don Quixote as like their, I don't know, the symbol of their DO, and I kind of adore that. Did you say it's getting down to 75 in Texas? Oh, that's so hard for you, Linda. I'm so sorry. we got nowhere near 75 during the day. All right, well, let's talk in the middle of summer and see how we're all doing, I guess, weather-wise. In this part of the country, the notable red varietals are Tempranillo, Garnacha, and some more of our delightful Monastrell. Food pairing ideas are listed there. They're listed kind of more for this specific wine than just like general. And like that's true of all of the things tonight. These food pairings are meant for this wine, not just all wines from this area. But I would say pasta with shrooms and herbs would be absolutely fantastic with this wine. So the things of interest about the Meseta is that it's really warm and things grow, but they don't necessarily grow well. Meaning that they don't necessarily make awesome wine, but there can be like abundant grapes. I can't see all your beautiful faces, so I don't know the age range of the people in the crowd tonight. So I will just say this: the Meseta is the Nebraska of Spain for sure, right? Like totally. When I came into the wine industry, it was like the early 2000s. And at that time, there was a lot of cheap Spanish wine in the market. And then there got to the point where there was so much cheap Spanish wine coming from the regions in the Mediterranean coast that I talked about, Jumilla and Yecla, and then from Castilla-La Mancha. And there was a joke in the industry that there was like a vat of Garnacha sitting in the middle of Spain, and there were just pipelines to different wineries, and so they could just put their own label on the wine because it all tasted exactly the same. It was just insipid, meaning like didn't have structure, didn't have acidity. It wasn't very interesting. It was the kind of wine that would give you a blasting headache. You know, I was living on a really tight budget, and it was awesome. It was great. It was like super fun. But the wines were really not interesting. And you saw in just a very short period of time, I would say about 3 or 4 vintages, wines that used to be like good finds, like, wow, that's like a lot of wine for $10, to like, man, I don't feel like I got my money's worth for $10. So the Meseta is still kind of in the having some growing pains in that. So it's always really important to me when we talk about this area to talk about the really great wine there. So I love Bernabeleva. If you shop at Table Wine, you know that because I've probably talked to you about this wine. It was also a wine club pick a long time ago. I'm gonna make this bigger. So this is a picture from the vineyards at Bernabeleva. They're just outside of Madrid, in Vinos de Madrid. These are their organic vines growing in sand. You can kind of see it. It's really warm. It was an interesting trip. I was there 2 years ago, and we came, we did the northern part, we did Galicia, and then we came back down and swung through Vinos de Madrid before heading out back to the States. So we had been in Galicia, where everything's like green and lush and gorgeous, and we saw rainbows every day and whatever, back to like desert and mountains. And it is beautiful in its own stark way, but just very different. So I thought I'd show you guys this picture so that you can kind of just like get a sense of what it kind of looks like. So let's drink the wine. I hope that you were able, if you're not able to get this specific wine, I hope that you were able to get a Garnacha from Vinos de Madrid, only because I don't want you to be drinking cheap Spanish Garnacha right now. I want you to be drinking really good one, but whatevs. I'm going to answer your question in just a hot second, Linda. I'm just like in love with the scent of this wine. I just love it so much. Yeah, so the color is a bit browner for sure. Yeah, so like if you look at it, Meg, if you have something white that you can look at it over, you can kind of see that. And it's pretty translucent, right? And I think for people, maybe you guys are some of them, they look at it and they're thinking like, oh, this is going to be so light. And it's light in some ways, but have a sip. Karina's friends, I hope you know that there are tannins, and then your mouth watering is the acidity, and that's what makes this wine so awesome, because it's like complete. It has both things, both your mouth getting dry and your mouth watering. You guys all inspired me when you were talking about all the Spanish food you were making. I have some chorizo. If it's not completely impolite of me, I might have some chorizo with this wine as we as I let you guys chat with each other. So yeah, it's got a super earthy smell, right? It smelled like, we can go, let me bring this picture back up. So it's all organic. There are herbs and stuff, scrub grass growing in between the vines. And I feel like you really kind of start to smell that. We didn't see them, but there are wild boar everywhere, and they kind of trample the vines kind of all throughout that region. And there are olive trees growing amidst the vines as well. So I think that you kind of can start to almost get an olivey thing going on. Are the vineyards irrigated? No. Nope, they're dry farmed. So I don't know about Castaño. I don't know. I'm not going to make an educated guess on Castaño. And then Pasina, to my knowledge, is also not irrigated. No, that's like really not common practice in Spain. Spain is really dry. You know, they don't have the luxury of watering things the way that we do. Side note, because I'm looking at the time, I think I have time. Quick story. I went to Portugal on that same trip, and I'm a super American girl in some ways, and like I drink a lot of water. And so we're in Portugal, and we're at this winery, and we're having this amazing visit. It's like 9 hours long, and all the Portuguese are just drinking wine all day. They don't drink water, and I'm doing nothing but drinking water. And then like at a certain moment, I was like, this is a country that's been in drought for kind of perpetually ever. And I'm the a-hole drinking all their water. Okay, I'm gonna go back to, thank you for the encouragement to drink chorizo, or to eat my chorizo, drink my chorizo. That'd be nice. Linda had the question about legs. So if you guys want to swirl in your glass and then watch the wine trickle down, I don't really think you can see it on screen, but maybe you can see it live in person. The wine that's kind of traveling down the side of your glass, those are referred to as the legs of a wine. They Linda, you're right. They refer to alcohol content or sugar content. And sometimes both. So the thicker the legs, the more slow moving the legs, that's just the higher alcohol content or higher the sugar content. So it really is just a matter of viscosity. That's what it comes down to. So I know there was a point in time, I'm not making any judgment about people's age, but I know that there was a point in time, kind of like before I was of legal drinking age, that people would talk about the legs of a wine as being a sign of quality. That is not true. Legs are just a sign that it's boozy or it's sweet, or maybe it's both. The soda they add to inexpensive wine is Coca-Cola, straight up Coca-Cola. Oh, she's saying Fanta Limon. Interesting. Everybody, all the Spaniards I know drink Coke. Becky, I want to answer your question, Ana Rivera. It's not cheap. We carry Ana Rivera Monastrell, and I like it. It's just a different flavor profile than the Vinos de Madrid. It is definitely more of that kind of like concentrated fruity style of Garnacha. Super delicious and yummy in its own way. Just not like what we have, in our glasses. You like the nose, and that it's less fruity. It is less fruity, right? And Jenny likes the smell of this, but prefers the taste of the Castaño. And that totally makes sense to me. I mean, I think that like this wine has significantly more acidity. So if you're not eating, maybe get some food, which feels like a really good time for me to, so good. So good. Hold on, sorry. So if you have food, have it with some food, Jenny. If you don't have food, or you just like the Castaño more, then you just like the Castaño more. No judgment. What else do I want to say? I think that's all. Fun story. There's this woman on this bear on the label, and these are actual statues. There are bear statues right by the winery that were built by the Celts. There's like this this little like copse of trees right by the vineyard, or I'm sorry, right by the winery, and the apparently the Celts believed that it had magical powers. This little group of trees, and so they built these bear statues as protectors of the vineyard. So, or I'm sorry, not of the vineyard, of the forest. So when we went to visit, we had to go check out the bears, and I have awesome pictures of myself on top of the bear and the people that I visited with, the guy who took us on the trip, and Andrea at Square. We all got up on top of the bear. It was awesome. There is some debate as to whether or not they're bears or bulls. They're, so old that you can't tell. Seems more fitting that they would be bulls, right? Seems kind of weird that they'd be bears in that part of Spain, but one never knows. But the Irish girl in me was super excited to get on those Celtic statues. You strictly refer to this as the bear wine. I totally used to refer to this as the bear wine. And then because I'm an American, I would just call it the Camino. When I was like, sure, it's the Camino. And then, then I learned that Camino just means to walk or the walk. And I stopped calling it just Camino. So the winery is Bernabeliva. The name of the wine is Camino de Navaherreros. So I would put this in the category of like a lot of words that might be unfamiliar or like a little daunting to people, which is why fine folks like Alexis and Jason refer to it as the bear wine, because that you can remember. And I'm glad to see, Haley, that it's working out with your croquetas de jamón. That makes sense to me. Gosh, for those of you who have not been to Spain, there's just ham like everywhere. I should have had ham, but I figured Spanish chorizo would be pretty good. Anything else anybody wants to ask about this wine before we move on to Rioja? It's definitely a lighter, more elegant version of Garnacha. If you enjoy this, there's a world out there to explore. You can get more minerally than this. This is that kind of herby and savory, earthy thing that a lot of you picked up on. But you can get ones that are even more minerals and less fruit. And then you can get ones that are like, juicy blackberry. There's a lot to explore, and kind of like be a little cautious, or just like kind of know what you like a little bit, or be equal opportunity and drink them all and see what you like. But just don't, just heads up, like this is a really good example of what I would call like a more savory side of Garnacha. So, if you like it, cool. If you don't, know that you like kind of fruitier. Is there a Spanish version of GSM? So they don't necessarily like have a specific name for it, Karina. What Karina's talking about there, guys, GSM is Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre. So in Spain, it would be Garnacha, Syrah, and Monastrell. But they blend all of those grapes, particularly Priorat, Monsant, close to the Mediterranean coast, you'll see them. But they also grow a ton of Carignan. So it might be Grenache, Syrah, Carignan, or, Syrah, Monastrell, and Carignan. Carignan's often like thrown in, which is a little bit more like the Languedoc eastern part of southern France rather than the Rhone. If all of what I just said just like didn't mean anything, that's okay. Don't worry about it. And if you're curious, let me know. But that was for you, Karina. Cool. Any other questions before we leave this wine behind? I don't want to leave it behind. I love it so much. You love Languedoc. What was the Spanish version? I was saying that wines in the Languedoc, they tend to use Carignan, and in the Mediterranean coast, they tend to use a lot of Carignan. So we just drank 100% Monastrell, but a lot of wines from Priorat, Monsant, and just kind of those general areas will have some Carignan blended in. I'm glad you tried it. I'm glad that that it's a new adventure for some people. And I know for some people, they're like, I've had this a million times. Isn't the spit jug nice? Isn't it super classy? If you guys didn't join us for Spanish Whites last week, I did not remember to bring the spit bucket with me. And I was in a different room than I am now, but I can't handle my booze and keep talking. So I had to get my spit bucket back because I need to be professional. All right, guys, we're going to keep on trucking. All right, so we're going to now go to the Ebro River Valley, which is the official name for kind of the region. And there are other regions in it, but let's just be clear, we're talking about Rioja primarily. So there is one DOCA in the region, and it is our beloved Rioja. And then there are other important subregions for red wine. And they're listed there. I'd say Campo de Borja is the one that to kind of be on the lookout for. They have a lot of inexpensive, really good value wines. So those are the kind of the regions to go for. The notable red varietals, it's Tempranillo. It is the Tempranillo game. The other grapes that are listed there, Garnacha, Graciano, Mazuela, which is the name for Carignan in this particular part of Spain. They are allowed to be used. Years ago, we carried a wine at Table Wine that was 100% Garnacha, and they were able to label it Rioja, which you know, is legal. It follows the guidelines. I think it's a bit, I don't know, a little misleading, I guess is the nicest way that I can say that. Because people are like, oh my God, I love Rioja, thinking that it's going to be kind of like what we're about to drink. And then it ended up being like a kind of a fruity wine, but that wine was a huge hit. So, you know, MBD. And let's see, what else? Oh, food pairings. The food pairings I have listed there are very definitely specific to this wine. So I'm gonna bring myself back up again. You know, it's funny, I picked this wine because, well, for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons I picked this wine is that I went to Piscina on my trip, and I was looking through my pictures to see if there were any good pictures to share with you guys from my Piscina visit. And I realized that it was the day that we got off the plane and had just arrived. And so I was like so jet lagged, and I just didn't take any good pictures. They're just like the lame, I just have some lame pictures of some wine glasses on a table. I didn't even get like the labels in the background. So no pictures from that part of my trip. So let's talk about Rioja. So we talked about crianza and the aging requirements a bit. And I will say that I had a class on the schedule that was just a Rioja class, and that was going to be an in-person class in March. It's still my intention to teach that class in person at some point. It was sold out. There might be a world in which we do it virtually. But it's, I love Rioja a lot, and I really want to talk about all of the ins and outs of it. And the best way for us to do that is for me to pour you guys 6 wines. And I think that that's not really practical from a virtual standpoint. So we'll see. So that's me saying, like, guys, I love Rioja, and I hope you love it too. I'm seeing that people are talking about the smell of this wine. So with the aging designations, it starts off with Coseca or Joven, and those don't have any oak age requirements. And then you move up to Crianza, and then Reserva, and then Gran Reserva. The wines are required to be aged in oak different amounts of time for the different designations. And that is to give them these aromas that you guys are all picking up on. I mean, like, you guys are all like, people are just like, without me saying anything, you're all just like, yep, licorice, vanilla, you know, plum, all of these things. So much of them are exactly what you're kind of picking up on. And that comes from the oak aging. So Tempranillo has, if you don't know the grape, Tempranillo is pretty solidly black fruit when it sees really any oak aging. It can be kind of like tartar red fruit when it's not aged in oak at all. Pretty hardy tannins. It's one of the reasons, the amount of tannin in Tempranillo is one of the reasons that it ages so well. It has some nice acidity as well when made well. So they age really, really beautifully. I think I've shared this story. I feel like I shared this story recently on a virtual class, but I, when I visited a different winery in Rioja, I was able to, I had the opportunity to drink red wine from the early 80s. and it just tasted super, super fresh and amazing. So Riojas, if you guys want to, you don't have to have a whole big wine cellar or anything like that, but like if you want to just kind of see what happens, this is $20. And for what I think you're getting, what you're getting, I think is a good value. I realize that $20 might not be like everybody's, Tuesday night price, but you could lay this down and honestly drink it whenever. It is totally your best bang, the best bang for your aged wine buck for sure. And that's why I picked it. There are other wineries in Rioja that I could spend 60 straight minutes talking about how much I love them. And not that I don't love Piscina, because I do. There are others that I'm like a fangirl about, but they aren't as inexpensive. And I think that this is just a total steal. I mean, I just think that this wine super, super over delivers. So I'm going to scroll back up and see kind of what you guys are saying. It feels like everybody's encouraging me to do Rioja class, opening 6 Riojas at once. And everybody's saying, oh, I could do that. Okay. Or maybe 3 one week and maybe 3 the next. I like that idea. All right. We'll see. We'll see. It tastes like Christmas. Totally. I love that. Shoshana, I totally agree with you. I think it totally tastes like Christmas. And that wraps up what everybody else was saying, right? Plums and licorice and all these spices and the leather and the vanilla and all that stuff. Sorry, like got distracted there. Okay, I'm seeing everybody. Yay. You guys are so great. You guys are so great at the chat. Let me just like give you all a shout out. You keep this so interesting for me because you're actually like saying things. Christmas cookie pairing. Ginger snaps? Or like gingerbread men? I'm not a big anise person, but what are the, like, maybe pizzelles? Or like a Linzer tort? Because it, is that right? Linzer tart? Yeah. Do all Riojas taste okay or are delicious? So I think I said this earlier, like that Riojas, there is cheap Rioja. Oh, to Becky, I'm curious what you're drinking, Becky. Are you drinking this? Are you drinking Piscina specifically? I'm curious. Venison tenderloin and morel mushroom breakfast. Holla, that sounds freaking delicious. Now I'm like all tangent out and I'm not sure where I was going with this. Oh yeah, are they all this delicious? The Marquis de Caceres. Okay, so Marquis de Caceres, I don't want to shame you. And please, you know me, I don't mean it like this. Marquis de Caceres is kind of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about slightly more industrial wine. It's totally fine. And if that is what you're drinking and you are enjoying it, like that, you know that is what I care about. I want you to drink what you like, and that's great. I do think that there are wines in Rioja with more character, that have a little bit more complexity to them. So, no, I know. She's in Mississippi, and we've talked about kind of how the choices in Mississippi are not what they are up here in the boozy north. So there's that. To answer the question about are all Riojas delicious? No, not necessarily. With Rioja, what I saw, thank you, and thank you for taking it the way I intended it. What I saw when I was in Spain was that they know, the winemakers in Rioja are very aware of the fact that if there is a Spanish wine that Americans drink, it's Rioja. The number of customers who assume that Rioja is the grape, and I totally understand why you would assume that. You see it everywhere, and that's how it's listed on a glass list, Rioja, and you're like, okay, that's the Rioja. And that you don't necessarily know it's a place and not the name of the grape. There are wineries out there that are, cashing in on that, right? And they just put Rioja on the label. So to Laura's question, they're not all that delicious. When you start off at Crianza and move up in terms of the classifications, Oh, I don't know that wine, Linda. Oh, I'm curious now. When you start with Crianza and move up, yes, this amount of oakiness is going to be pretty prominent in anything that you would be drinking. So you can definitely look for the aging designation more than just the fact that it's from Rioja. You can look for like, oh, I know that I really like Crianza, or it's my big birthday and I want to splurge on something special. I remember that class and I really liked that wine. Maybe today's the day for, you know, the Gran Reserva. So it's just going to kind of get up on that. I feel like there were other questions about how, let's see, how long will the 2014 improve? Quite a darn long while, quite honestly. What happens over time is that all of those like beautiful aromas that we're picking up on are what happens as the tannins break down, and they're physical compounds that change, and they're called the tertiary aromas, and they happen as the tannins break down in the wine. So you could age this. I'm trying to think back. I tasted one from the first vintage that the winery made, and that was like late 90s, and that had kind of fallen off. So that was in 2018. So I would say like, and that was their first year of making wine too, right? So I would say that you at least have 10 years in this one. And if you are interested in, I want to pick a Rioja for aging, you know, shoot me an email. We can talk. We have wines in the store that are more ideal for that. And you know, we have a whole cellaring wine club built for that kind of thing. I can just hook you up with Rioja all the time. Anything that we haven't talked about, we're actually already coming up on time, which it seems like it just flew by, but that's because I'm talking about Rioja and I love it so much. Anything that we didn't cover that anybody wants to ask either about this wine? Ooh, it doesn't taste like a typical red wine. I love that, right? It's just like, I don't know. It's just interesting. You know, it's complex. It's got a lot going on. I'm glad that you like my excitement for it. I can't help it. It's just natural. It's just going to come out when I start talking about this stuff. Yeah, the cheering slide, I can totally go back to that. I'm going to do that while I have a piece of chorizo, because I can. So good. There you go. So, this class will continue to live at this website in perpetuity. So you can come back and look at these again. And you can share this with friends if you are interested in doing that. Oh, Thursdays have become Molly days. That's so sweet. I love that so much. That's really great. I'm gonna take a week off. And then we'll do Sauv Blanc, which I know tonight is all red wines, and so some of you might just not be interested, but we are doing Sauv Blancs on the 21st. So, oh, I'm so glad that you enjoyed them. And Lori, right? I feel like the variety is so great. Like, if you were shopping with us, you got these 3 wines for under $50. And you got to, you know, go to 3 really different parts of the country and taste like super different flavor profiles. For the goat salami, is there cinnamon spices? Wait, for the goat salami, is there cinnamon spices for these wines? I'm not sure I'm totally understanding. Yes, goat salami. Goat salami, there's a little bit of cinnamon in the goat salami. And I think it would work with any of them. It's from Underground. I think we have a couple pieces left at the store. I don't remember who it is, but somebody asked me to include the cheese and meat in their wines when they picked up. And I included the goat salami because it would just be so delicious. Oh yeah, you tasted cinnamon in the goat salami. Got it. Yes, there is that. And before we leave, I just wanted to mention, so we have Sauv Blanc already on the schedule. We've been asked by people to do Greece, which I think we'll do soon. It's looking like virtual classes are probably going to be the way that things are for quite a while, guys. So if there are other things that you want to learn about, you can leave me in the chat right now, or you can just shoot me an email and let me know. But I'm all ears. I'm open to kind of whatever is of interest to the group. Oh, that's so great. I'm so happy. Not that there's anything wrong with drinking California Cabernet, but I love when people are open to exploring other places, and particularly Spain. Oh yeah, and local wines. Yeah. Orange wines. Ooh, that'd be interesting and expensive, but it'd be delicious. I'm so glad that you guys joined it. Patty, I'm glad you liked it. If you didn't like it, I'd be really heartbroken. He's my like Rioja lover in the crowd tonight. I'd be really sad. Thank you guys so much. Oh, good. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that for those of you who are joining from other places, I really appreciate it. Cheers, guys. Cheers to you all. Thank you so much. Yay. I'm so glad. Thank you, guys. I'm going to head out now. I'm going to go have minestrone. Bye.